So I have been tabulating the data since the onset of the pandemic of different continents and different countries actually. So at the beginning of the pandemic, say sometime in May, June, I tabulated data from 3 continents. And I found that there was a very close association with the obesity levels as measured by the increased BMI, more than 25, and the mortality from COVID. There was almost 10 times difference between the Western countries and the Asian and African countries. I mean, almost 10 times difference between the Western countries and the Asian countries, and almost 15 to 20 times difference with the African countries. So I tabulated the data and compared it with the BMI, that is the measure of obesity, and also the age. Because this was the year, it is a disease of the elderly, comorbid, those who are in nursing homes. So there was a good correlation with age. But what was surprising was there was a much more stronger correlation with obesity. Actually, at the population level, this obesity data is available from the WHO site. So obesity data can be compared across countries, and the COVID data can be compared. So this obesity data, what was interesting was that obesity was very strongly associated with and that obesity is a surrogate marker. That obesity per se increases the fatality from all respiratory diseases, not only COVID. For influenza also there are papers, and subsequently there are papers that obesity increases the risk of severe disease and mortality from COVID also, because obesity causes the compromised respiratory functions. As Madam was explaining, the breathing problems with too much of fat cells around the respiratory muscles. And also obesity is a surrogate marker of other comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension. So this is one reason. And then 2 countries give very good 2 outliers or 3 outliers in each continent, gives very good association or proves the point. You see, Japan is the oldest country. Even the median age of Japan is even higher than the Western countries, but they have got very low mortality from the COVID. And on the other hand, Brazil is a younger country, but they have got a higher obesity, and their death rate from COVID are equal to the Western countries. Similarly, in Africa, all the African countries are very lean except for South Africa.
If you have cough with COVID, maybe now or in past recent COVID, maybe around a month or so, you need to have checked or diagnosed the reason of your cough, because in COVID, we do give steroids sometimes for management of COVID, which may flare up the disease if you have underlying tuberculosis. So you need to cross-check and be rest assured that there is no underlying tuberculosis within your system. Right now in Mumbai has become a high prevalent zone for tuberculosis, where India is contributing 29% of tuberculosis all over world. So just imagine the tuberculosis infection what is there right now in India. Every 3rd person which you are crossing across the road is having infection, and every 5th person amongst them is active disease, who is having active disease right now. So if you have cough and you were infected with COVID or recent infection of COVID, please do check and confirm that you have underlying tuberculosis or not.
Recently, what we did was we conducted a study in patients who are COVID recovered. Now, those patients who are actually COVID recovered, these patients we started analyzing and seeing whether their heart is actually affected when they had a normal echo function. And to our surprise, what we saw was, this was documented in the Journal of Echocardiography very recently, that those patients who are apparently absolutely healthy with a normal ejection fraction, the subclinical dysfunction in the heart had already started occurring. Now, this is something which is revealing. What a person thinks that he's COVID recovered, this person is already having an effect on the heart when there's absolutely the echo issue in normal. This we analyzed on the basis of spectral tracking and a special kind of imaging which is called strain rate imaging. And we are following up these patients. More severe was the COVID illness, the more chances was there that the heart would be affected. So definitely, while it is affecting the lung, it is also affecting the heart simultaneously depending on the severity of the COVID. Now, We have two perspectives of this. We must understand that whenever COVID is affecting our lungs, heart is simultaneously affected in almost ranging from 6% to 50 to 60% of the cases. The various manifestations of COVID on heart could range from an acute heart attack to a heart failure to heart blocks to venous thromboembolisms, that means there's more chances of clotting, to myocarditis, that means there is a dilatation of the heart muscles, and this also is manifesting in what we call as a long haul COVID or the post-COVID syndrome, in which these patients are having effect on the heart muscle also and also on the rhythm of the heart. So this is very pertinent that every COVID patient who is either recovered or is in the active phase of that particular disease must have a baseline cardiac checkup. It is mandatory. And this becomes even more important, especially when a patient is symptomatic. Interestingly, one good news is that those patients who are having an effect on the heart, the recovery that is happening on follow-up of these COVID patients is much better. So, definitely, heart or cardiologist's role is significant in any illness of COVID. And there are various pathophysiological mechanisms that are happening because of the direct damage, because of the indirect damage, because of the immune response that is being generated. But heart is definitely affected both in the acute illness as well as during the recovery phase, as well as in those patients who are apparently absolutely healthy. These patients still have some level of chances of having an effect on the heart.
वैक्सीन 100% प्रोटेक्शन देती है, ये बड़ा रेयरली होता है। जितनी वैक्सीन होती है वो आपको अच्छी प्रोटेक्शन देती है, लेकिन उसकी बार बार जरूरत पड़ती है। अब देखिए, इन्फ्लुएंजा जो कि कोविड से रिलेटेड है, उसकी वैक्सीन सदियों कई दशकों से चल रही है, 50 साल से तो चल रही है, और उसको भी बार बार देनी पड़ती है। पोलियो की वैक्सीन है, वो भी देनी पड़ती है। इस स्मॉल पॉक्स को इरेडिकेट करने के बाद, जो कि एक वायरस की इन्फेक्शन थी और वो वैक्सीन ने इरेडिकेट करा था, अब पोलियो की बारी आ रही है। अब नजर आ रहा है कि वो इरेडिकेट होगा। लेकिन अगर हम ये कहें कि पोलियो की वैक्सीन आपको बार बार हर बार देनी है, तो वो उचित नहीं होगा। कोविड की वैक्सीन और इन्फ्लुएंजा की वैक्सीन, इसमें थोड़ा कॉन्ड्रम है। जो हमारे वायरस होते हैं वो दो तरह के होते हैं, एक डीएनए वायरस होता है, एक आरएनए वायरस होता है। जो डीएनए वो डबल स्ट्रैंडेड होता है। अगर एक स्ट्रैंड में कोई मिसचीफ हो जाए, म्यूटेशन आ जाए, तो दूसरा स्ट्रैंड उसको कवर कर लेता है। कोविड का वायरस सिंगल स्ट्रैंड का आरएनए वायरस है, और इसमें अगर कोई म्यूटेशन आ जाए तो एक तरह से वो बहरूपिया बन जाता है, अपना रूप बदल के बॉडी के अंदर आता है, और उस केस में सारी प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिल सकती है। और ये जो है म्यूटेशन जिसको हम कहते हैं, ये कोविड में बड़ा कॉमन है। समझ लीजिए हर 15 दिन में एक हो जाता है। इन्फ्लुएंजा में उससे भी ज्यादा है, एचआईवी में उससे भी ज्यादा है। तीनों आरएनए वायरस है। आरएनए वायरस की खासियत है कि वो बहरूपिया होता है और रूप बदलता है। ऐसी हालत में जो वैक्सीन है, वैक्सीन बड़ी प्रिसाइज होती है। अगर ये पेन है और इसको मारना है तो इसी को जाके टारगेट करेगी, लेकिन अगर इसमें इसका कैप थोड़ा सा भी बदल जाएगा तो उसको नहीं टारगेट कर पाएगी। तो वैक्सीन की थोड़ी दिक्कतें होती है। हैविंग सेड इट, लेकिन मैं उसके बाद ये जरूर कहना चाहूँगा, आपको ध्यान होगा पिछले साल जब WHO ने बात करी थी, विश्व स्वास्थ्य संगठन ने, उन्होंने कहा था कि अगर वैक्सीन 50% एफिकेशियस भी हो गई, उसकी 50%, तो भी हमारे लिए ठीक है, क्योंकि ये प्रकोप महामारी ऐसी है। 50 नहीं, जितनी वैक्सीन बनी है सारी की सारी उससे बहुत आगे है। 70-80 को पीछे पछाड़ के वो 90 के पॉजिटिव्स में जा रही है।
टाइप 2 डायबिटीज अगर नियंत्रण में है तो जनरली वो कंडीशन, जिस कंडीशंस की वजह से टाइप 2 डायबिटीज नियंत्रण के बाहर जाती है, जैसे कि मोटापा, स्ट्रेस, अनबैलेंस्ड लाइफस्टाइल, तो नियंत्रण में अगर टाइप 2 डायबिटीज है तो इसका ये मतलब है कि उस आदमी का स्ट्रेस लेवल मोस्टली कंट्रोल में है, वो आदमी मोटापे से थोड़ा सा दूर है, उसका बाकी न्यूट्रिशन वगैरह ठीक चल रहा है। तो इन कंडीशंस के अंदर अगर HbA1c जो हम मॉनिटर करते हैं, जो कि डायबिटीज़ के बारे में बताता है कि वो वेल कंट्रोल्ड है कि नहीं है, 6.5 के ऊपर जैसे HbA1c होता है तो उसको डायबिटीज़ होता है। अगर 8 के नीचे HbA1c है तो कंट्रोल बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है। और अगर टाइप 2 डायबिटीज़ का कंट्रोल अच्छा चल रहा है तो ज़रूरी नहीं है कि कोविड के सिवियरिटी वगैरह उन मरीजों में देखी जाए। मॉनिटर करते रहना चाहिए, परमानेंट है या वो टेम्पररी है, इसको स्पेकुलेट करे के बिना आप मॉनिटर करते रहिए। अगर लग रहा है कि डायबिटीज़ आपका कंट्रोल आ रहा है, शुगर नीचे होने लग रहा है, आपको सिम्टम्स आ रहे हैं कि आपका शुगर फॉल हो रहा है, तो उस केस के अंदर दवाइयाँ आपको कम करके मॉनिटर अपना चालू रखना चाहिए। आप डायबिटीज़ की दवाइयाँ कम कर दीजिए, शुगर मॉनिटरिंग कीजिए, उसके बाद कई चीज़ों में रिवर्ट हो जाता है। क्योंकि कई बार तो क्या होता है कि इलनेस का स्ट्रेस हो गया, इन्फ्लेमेशन बॉडी में बढ़ गया। जो हार्मोन्स इन्फ्लेमेशन में बढ़ते हैं, वो इन्फ्लेमेशन मतलब स्ट्रेस, बॉडी को जब भी स्ट्रेस होगा तो एक्ट करने के लिए ताकत चाहिए। ताकत कहाँ से आएगी? शुगर से आएगी, तो शुगर बढ़ेगा शरीर में। और दूसरा है कि उससे रिलेटेड मेडिसिन अगर कोविड सिवियरिटी की तरफ था, स्टीरॉयड दिए हैं, तो वो कंडीशन वर्सन कर सकती है। तो एक बार वो चीज़ें निकल गई तो हो सकता है कि शुगर कंट्रोल वैसे ही आने लगता है। तो कईयों की रिवर्स भी हो जाती है, कईयों की कंट्रोल हो जाती है, कईयों की वर्सन हो जाती है।
COVID-19 illness, just like any other viral illness, it affects all organs. Some are involved more, which express themselves clinically. So you get diagnosed with COVID pneumonia or COVID myocarditis or COVID thromboembolism. But it's a systemic illness. And also, as first speaker, Dr. Mohit, pointed out that there could be a low-grade myocarditis resulting in subclinical myocardial dysfunction picked up by specialized tests like echocardiogram. These are the patients who are at risk of exercise-induced or when they go beyond their effort tolerance to develop arrhythmias, which they are vulnerable in any case. So a good marker for that is that if somebody recovers from COVID-19 or any other viral illness and suffers from profound fatigue, the definition of fatigue is feeling of being tired after minimal exertion for which person is used to otherwise. So these are the patients where one should suspect there could be a subclinical myocarditis, which makes them vulnerable to all kinds of problems, including sudden death on exertion. So these are the patients who should be investigated in a targeted manner. And if there are signs and symptoms of myocarditis, they should be given prolonged rest. And there are some medicines also, which I will not go into detail here, but they can be put on some medicines also to make them recover, particularly those who are found to have impaired heart function. Here, because the context has come up, I would like to say that we must investigate and counsel patients in a targeted manner, because one of the hazards in any pandemic, and more so in the current pandemic, is that one should not overwhelm medical and healthcare systems, because positivity rate in some of our metropolitan cities is 25%, going up to 50%. If we were to advise all of them to undergo complete cardiac checkup, complete lung checkup, and other investigations, the medical system and the healthcare system will get overwhelmed. So it should be done in a targeted manner. Those patients who have profound fatigue or sequelae after initial illness should be investigated. All others can follow routine healthful activities like good nutrition, remaining well hydrated, etc.
But so far as vaccination is concerned, I think one thing we need to take into consideration, what we need is a developed public health system. This virus will continue, the mutations will happen. The only thing is, like SARS did not spread was because the spread was avoided. You know, Chinese did not travel so much. In this case, it was that 5 million people who got out of Wuhan and spread it all over the world. So that spread means countries have to cooperate, not like in a war treaty, peace treaty or something. In a treaty, like WHO has done something like CVR and they've created, where we have intelligence sharing and we have a constant surveillance on the diseases. Not just COVID, but lots others can also emerge like this. So the constant surveillance, if it is continued, you know, there may be a certain variant. It is possibly going to be endemic, as Dr. Naresh Gupta has pointed out. That is how the evolution has happened, specifically in the case of 1918 flu virus also. But if a sudden variant were to come, which is very lethal, people have to be prepared for it. Nations have to be prepared, just like we do for a war. This is a new war. So vaccine or no vaccine, that development of course has to go on side by side. The world has to wake up and see. And Beshaw said many years ago, health is politics. So basically, that concept has to come in. We are not just focusing on curative medicine. We develop this kind of networks because otherwise, even a vaccine which is do for all is not going to be very effective. That's what, as a public health professional, I like to say.
It's totally depend on the way you are taking your surroundings or the situation you are taking. Sleep, what is dream? It's your unconscious mind that is telling you that you are whole day you are analyzing something, you are seeing something good or bad. I have seen people are coming that whole day before sleep also they were watching news, and new channel these days they are just showing all the bad things happening around the world. You are watching those kind of new channels and all bad activity, you are getting all bad news, and after that your mind, your thought process is not able to think anything positive in life. After that, slowly and gradually, after a month, and it's now like 2 years, we are entered into the 2 years of pandemic. So our thought process had changed and we started dreaming wrong things. But it can be changed through mindful practices, yoga and meditation, engaging yourself in fruitful, positive activity, spending time with near and dear ones. It's nothing very serious. It's just your thought process which has changed your dream pattern. Children don't take lectures. They copy whatsoever their parents are doing. So before giving any instructions or suggestions to children, I request proper suggestion to, I believe that the parents need proper counseling before that, because if they will change their habit, if they will keep the environment in their home happy, they will talk good things, they will spend time with their children, they will reduce the screen time, they themselves will not watch those kind of channels very late, like till 9:30, 10, 11. They will watch some good TV or something, and if they switch off their TV by 8 o'clock, after that they can spend time with their kids. Reading activity they can do. After dinner they can do reading activity or some sort of play or game they can play. Then child will sleep nicely and they will feel comfortable that somebody is there. Whatsoever is happening around the world, it's not going to affect us because my parents are there. They have only one thing in their mind, that if my parents are there, nothing can harm me. And so they will sleep comfortably.
When we talk about the COVID-19 variants, and definitely with even when this novel COVID-19 had come up, the way the pandemics have ended is that the virus will evolve into a much milder variant, which will just cause a mild illness, because in case if it is causing a severe disease with the person, even the virus will die. So virus also wants to live for a longer time. It definitely will cause the infections, but in a manner that it also survives. So this is how the natural evolution of the viruses would be, and perhaps we are seeing it in this particular way. Mostly, yes, 2022 should be the end of COVID-19, but this is something which we are predicting and nobody really knows what's going to happen in the future. But hopefully, yes, this, and coming to vaccinations as well, there was the experts, even Dr. Gagandeep Kang was saying that probably even when we talk about the booster doses of COVID-19, maybe just the third booster is what we need at the most, and it will not be really an annual vaccination.
जिस पेशेंट को पहले से बीपी है और बीपी की मेडिसिन रेगुलर ले रहा है और वो कंट्रोल चल रहा है, उसको सडनली पता चलता है कि कोविड है, फीवर है, उस फीवर में अर्ली स्टेज जो रहती है, जिस टाइम पे फेब्राइल इलनेस स्टार्ट है, उस टाइम पे ब्लड प्रेशर में फ्लक्चुएट टू द लोअर साइड. तो जो पब्लिक को मेरा मैसेज ये रहेगा कि जो पेशेंट ऑलरेडी बीपी की दवाइयां ले रहा है, उसको कोविड इन्फेक्शन हुआ अर्ली स्टेज में, तो बीपी मॉनिटरिंग इज द फर्स्ट पॉइंट. If required, the BP medicine dose should be reduced in the early phase, and after that, when the recovery starts, then again the blood pressure may shoot over the level which is he prevented by the same medicine. Just then, that time may require the increased dose of the medicine. So during this COVID illness, the patient should monitor their blood pressure from the starting of the illness to the recovery, and may after for 3 months also, because after this viral illness, then hypercoagulable stage will go on proceed in the body, that may increase the blood pressure by the sympathetic overdrive also. So blood pressure management requires the BP monitoring from starting of the illness till the recovery, and post recovery 3 to 6 months.
मास वैक्सीनेशन से जो आर्टिकल्स इस पे पब्लिश हुए उनको कुछ मिस इंटरप्रेट किया गया है. म्यूटेशन का, जैसे अभी डॉक्टर नरेश गुप्ता ने समझाया कि म्यूटेशन आरएनए वायरस में होता ही है, और जितना ये ज़्यादा रहेगा शरीर में उतने ही म्यूटेशंस के ज़्यादा चांसेस हैं. अगर अनवैक्सीनेटेड इंडिविजुअल है तो उसमें ये चांसेस ज़्यादा होंगे, और मास वैक्सीनेशन से म्यूटेशन बढ़ने का चांस इस तरह से हो सकता है कि जो अनवैक्सीनेटेड लोग हैं वो इन्फेक्ट होंगे, उनके अंदर ज़्यादा दिन तक वायरस जब सर्वाइव करेगा, जितना ज़्यादा सर्वाइव करेगा, जो रेट बता रहे थे डॉक्टर साहब, तो हर 15 दिन में अगर म्यूटेट करेगा, तो स्पेशली जो अनवैक्सीनेटेड और ऐसा वाला है जिसे कोई इम्यूनो कॉम्प्रोमाइज डिजीज़ है, तो उसमें ये म्यूटेशंस ज़्यादा होंगी, और इसलिए जो नए नए वेरिएंट्स हैं वो इमर्ज करेंगे. तो मास वैक्सीनेशन हम 100% तो कर नहीं पा रहे हैं ना, तो मास वैक्सीनेशन से ये एसोसिएटेड हो गई बात, जिसे हम स्पूरियस एसोसिएशन कह सकते हैं, कि म्यूटेंट्स की इमर्जेंस. और स्पेशली एक और भी चीज़ है इसमें कि जो वैक्सीनेटेड होता है उसके अंदर भी इन्फेक्शन से तो बचाव नहीं करती ना वैक्सीन, तो इन्फेक्शन होगा उसमें, और इन्फेक्शन होगा तो उसमें भी एक चांस है म्यूटेंट के इमर्ज होने का. लेकिन जो अगर हम मास वैक्सीनेशन बहुत हाई उसकी लेवल की कर देते हैं तो म्यूटेंट्स भी नुकसान नहीं पहुंचा पाएंगे. तो इसलिए मास वैक्सीनेशन को किसी भी तरह से कंडेम करना किसी भी कारण से सही नहीं है. ये जो एंटी वैक्सर्स हैं, ये किसी भी पॉइंट को पिक करके उसे ट्विस्ट करके, क्योंकि स्टैटिस्टिक्स तो आप देखिए ऐसी चीज़ है जिसे आप कुछ भी प्रूव कर सकते हैं, तो वो इस तरह से इसे प्रूव करते हैं कि मास वैक्सीनेशन से म्यूटेशंस ज़्यादा हो रही हैं. लेकिन म्यूटेशंस जब तक वायरस रहेगा तब तक होंगी, उसमें मास वैक्सीनेशन से फ़र्क इस तरह से नहीं पड़ने वाला. लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम हमें याद रखना है कि वैक्सीनेशन से आप इन्फेक्शन से बचाव नहीं होता अक्सर. तो जब वैक्सीनेशन से भी इन्फेक्शन होगा तो उसमें भी जब वायरस ग्रो करेगा तो म्यूटेशंस तो उसमें भी पॉसिबल हैं.
All vaccines for that matter will have some or the other minor side effects. They are actually not the side effects, they are the effects in which way the vaccine is working. So that is the major concern most of the parents have. But this is how T cell response would be. The patient is going to have fever, some mild swelling at the pain vaccination site, some fever and redness around the area, which may settle in 2 to 3 days. But these are minor symptoms and they should be taken as, okay, my body is developing immunity. So because of these minor symptoms, any kind of vaccination should not be deferred. Second thing is, the vaccination is being provided for healthy adults and healthy children only. Those who are sick would not be anyways given the medicines, the vaccines. So in that scenario, there are two schools of thought. One school of thought says that anyways they're having less of infection, why to curb their natural immunity. But this is my personal opinion, and as a pediatrician, and most of the pediatricians would agree with me, that we only worry about the severity of the illness. So in cases when we are providing vaccine now, we are expecting this, let's say a mutation comes again, and this time it's not that mild. At least these kids would be prevented from that, from getting the severity of infection. And everyone would agree here with me that after the second wave, we have learned this thing, that how important it is to not going to that severe state. It's okay if we have the common if the COVID passes like common cold and flu and mild fever, but we just worry about we should not get admitted into the hospital or land up with any kind of pneumonia, so as to say. So the vaccine is preventing here the severity of infection. So in my personal opinion, and most of the pediatricians would agree, any vaccine for that matter, yes, it prevents infection also, but as Nareshwar has mentioned, that it's never 100%. At least it reduces the severity of infection. So yes, we should go for vaccinations, but still there are a lot of studies which are coming up now. And I'm sure by 2022 we'll have a clear data on should we vaccinate children below 12 years or not, because in that scenario also I prefer that we should wait a little while, because they have their natural immunity with other vaccines.
जो डेवलप्ड नेशंस हैं, यूरोपियन नेशंस हैं, अमेरिकन नेशंस हैं, उनमें इतनी अच्छी स्टडी हुई है कि जब ये दोबारा से ये वापस आया कोविड डेल्टा में, तो उसके बाद ये देखा गया कि जो आईसीयू में मरीज जाते थे वो 90% वो होते थे जिन्होंने वैक्सीन नहीं ली है। 90% वो होते थे जिन्होंने वैक्सीन नहीं ली है, कोमॉर्बिड कंडीशन है। जब वैक्सीन नहीं आई थी सब लोग आईसीयू में जा रहे थे, लेकिन उसमें मौत किसी को हो रही थी, किसी को नहीं हो रही थी। तो अब अगर आप देखेंगे उसके बाद कि आपको 90% प्रोटेक्शन आई है आईसीयू जाने से या वेंटिलेटर पे जाने से, तो उसमें अगर 10% बच जाते हैं जिन्होंने वैक्सीन ली है, तो उसको आप लेके ये नहीं कह सकते देखो फला इन फला 10 में से जो है 10 में से एक व्यक्ति की तो डेथ हो गई। अरे भाई 9 को बचाया भी तो है ना। और उसके ऊपर जो रिसर्च अभी और नई आई है उसमें ये भी आया है, क्योंकि ये बहरूपिया है, ये जो वायरस है कोविड का, इसमें अगर आपकी वैक्सीन पूरी लगती है तो जो पुरानी वैक्सीन लगाते हैं आप, उसके बाद बूस्टर डोज लगाते हैं या उसके बाद प्रिकॉशनरी डोज लगाते हैं, तो आपका जो दायरा है प्रोटेक्शन का, एक तो वो लंबा हो जाता है, 3 महीने से बढ़ के 8 महीने हो जाएगा, और दूसरा उसका दायरा सिर्फ लंबाई में नहीं बढ़ता है, उसका दौरा चौड़ाई में ही बढ़ता है। चौड़ाई का मतलब है कि जो म्यूटेशंस नई नई आने वाली हैं या आ चुकी हैं उनसे भी बचाव देता है। तो वॉशिंगटन की एक बड़ी अच्छी स्टडी है कि अगर किसी को 2 वैक्सीन लग गई है, 3 वैक्सीन लग गई हैं, या 2 वैक्सीन और 1 इन्फेक्शन है, उसकी इम्यूनिटी सुपर इम्यूनिटी हो जाती है, और वही देखने को आ रहा है हमारे।